So I have now talked a lot about the technicalities of how to set up Voiceforms, and as I said, this is very straightforward. Now there's one issue, however, and that is more on the content related side and the side of quality management. How do you actually ask good questions? And that, like in the scientific space at least, this really is a problem, because how you ask a question is very important, right? This is really what matters for validity and reliability and objectivity for everything that you want in a survey or in any research study actually. And there's very little guidance for this type of questions that we're asking in voice response surveys. And that is because we have lots of literature on closed-ended questions, on like classical survey item scorings, right? Like Likert scales, rate this question from 1 to 5. We know how to deal with them. We know how to ask questions that are like good. And we also have some information about how to ask good interview questions. And interview questions are always, a bit easier, I think, because you don't need to be that precise, because you're entering this conversation. Your conversation partner is sitting right across to you. And if that partner doesn't understand what you're saying, well, you can still paraphrase your question and try to help the interviewee. Now with Voiceforms, unfortunately, you do not have that option, right? You cannot learn a lot from closed-ended survey design, because these are like really very different types of questions, I would say. And also you cannot learn that much about asking good questions from interviews, because with interviews, it's much more about the interaction. And yeah, as I said, it's relatively easy to adjust on the spot. So what to do? Well, I can also give you just some heuristics that have worked for me quite well when I design Voiceform surveys. And normally what I do, first of all, of course, you want to have open-ended questions, because this is really where the power of Voiceform lies, right? So ask open-ended questions and really be very strict about that rule, right? In interviews, you sometimes can get away with like a closed-ended question, and you ask it and the person gives like a one-sentence response, and then you can make the follow-up, right? But don't forget, you cannot really make that interactive follow-up with Voiceform, so don't use closed-ended questions. You make them as open as possible. And then what I normally would do in an interview, right? If I see, the question is not working as I want to, I normally will try to produce paraphrases on the spot to direct the interviewee in the right direction. And my thinking is that you need to do the same with Voiceform. So normally when I ask a question, I try not to ask just like one question, unless of course it's like a super straightforward question, like in a feedback survey, right? Just asking, okay, what points did you like about my course? I think that is pretty straightforward, right? But if it's about something more complex, like what is your opinion about some political topic, for instance, it might be wise to just add a few paraphrases of that question to that right away. So not just having like one question, but having like, one main question that is supported by 2, 3, 4 paraphrases of that question that help the reader, the interviewee, to really understand what the essence of your question is and what kind of answer do you expect, right? That is actually also one technique that I've used, is to give some kind of example answer. So something like, so what is your opinion about that political topic X, for instance? Is it like XYZ, or is it like whatever, right? So just to give people some scaffold to work with. Of course, it always depends on the question, right? Maybe you don't want to lead the participant at all. That's up to you. But what I'm trying here is just to give you some ideas to think about this and to think about potential pitfalls that might appear in a Voiceform survey as opposed to a closed-ended question survey and like a fully open interview situation.